We're good. Okay. All right, I'd like to call the February 3rd, 2022 meeting of the Board of Architectural Review to order. First, I would like to tell you that there has been a swap in the discussion of our two applications this evening. The Overton applicant needed to go first, and the Nicholsons graciously accommodated them. So we'll start with the Overton application, and we'll get right into it. John, as I understand, you did notice the neighbors. And
Yes.
if we have neighbors on that would like to discuss this, we'll reach out to you during the public comment section on both applications. So the Overton Mountain Farm Road and Camp Farm Road parcel was approved by the planning board for the development of a small subdivision of homes a while back. From a macro standpoint, there's still site plans for each property, which will have to be developed over time. And tonight, I believe they're before us to talk about some brush removal during the center line of certain of the proposed driveways, I believe with the goal to enable them to show the properties to potential buyers. But I will ask them to take over the screen and give us a little introduction and tell us what they'd like to achieve this evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Dan Richmond. I'm with the law firm Zarin and Steinmetz, and with me is Chris Round from Labella, the Overton Applications planning and engineering consultant. First, I would like to say thank you very much to the Nicholsons for accommodating me. Truly appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck with your pool. The Overton subdivision was the product of nearly a decade long of environmental review led by your village's planning board, including pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQRA, where we were required to do an extensive environmental impact statement and coordinate with multiple agencies, including, as Chris will discuss, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, which imposed in connection with its review, a requirement that certain areas of the site, as Chris will show shortly, be designated as resource protection areas. The site, again, this project was heavily vetted. It resulted in 9 subdivisions, 9 lot subdivision with multiple conditions, including, as your chair has noted, that we must return to both the planning board and your board when any houses are proposed for development. But the review did consummate in 2019 with the village planning board issuing its approval for the Overton subdivision. That plat was filed after, again, coordinating with the village on various conditions and other agencies, including various easements that needed to be filed, including the recordation of the resource protection areas. So now Mr. Overton would like, as the chair noted, to move forward with the application, including designating we have to mark the resource protection areas to ensure that they're protected going forward. And as the chair noted, he would like to, start marketing the site, start showing the sites to people. So we are just asking for, as Chris will explain, very limited brush removal, essentially along the center lines of the driveways or the proposed driveways, roughly in those areas, just to allow access. We're not doing any earthwork, no disturbance of the land. We're not removing any trees as regulated by the village code. Again, this is really just brush removal so that people can access the sites. I'm going to hand it over to Chris, who is, can walk you through the plan, the resource protection area plan, as well as a little PowerPoint that he has prepared.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. You guys have you did a great job of covering like background and history. So many of you are not familiar with the plan itself. This is one sheet of many sheets. The project went through, as Dan mentioned, subdivision approval, and as a part of the SEQRA review, we developed individual site plans for each of the 9 lots. And there's, basically fairly detailed engineering for each of those lots. And in the evaluation, the planning board was concerned about impact on the landscape. And so we had multiple iterations of the lot layouts, our goal of limiting land disturbance overall. And as Dan mentioned, well, let me just talk about the plan itself. So to orient you, this is the intersection of Camp Comfort and Mountain Farm Road. Okay, and at the apex of this piece of property is the Tuxedo Park School. So Tuxedo Park School, the Overton family predecessors gifted these lands, and the school was established on lands that were legacy lands of the Overton family. And the balance of the land is what was proposed for subdivision. This is the intersection, as I mentioned, Camp Comfort, and if you can see my cursor, in Mountain Farm Road. And there are 9 lots, one
Thanks
lot.
for calling the Orangeburg Loan. Calls may be recorded or monitored. Para español, marque 9.
This is lot 1, and they're all
What
numbered.
can we do for you today?
to the,
Excuse me, if the person who's calling Lowe's could put us on mute, that would be good.
Oh,
Thank you. At this intersection is the arch to the former estate, and this roadway, this cul-de-sac that's proposed, actually is the former carriage road for the estate, and that's being reutilized in the subdivision, and the arches and etc. Great details has been placed on minimizing any impact to those existing historic and archaeological features. And this cul-de-sac will serve 4 of the lots, and so that's what this gray area is here. The 4 home sites. As I mentioned, lot 1 is up here, and I won't go through each of these. Lot 5 is here at the northern end, and lots 8 and 9 are here down at the bottom. And in developing the site plans, let me just go. So let me just pause. So in the review process, one of the concerns was impact on the potential presence of the rattlesnake, an endangered species. And so we were engaged with the DEC through multiple iterations and established what we call these resource protection areas. So any of these areas in gray are restricted from development, are restricted from any future land clearing. We need to post those areas. And so we need to mark these lines so that future landowners and homeowners understand that there are multiple notices to the property owners through easements, deed restrictions, notes on the plat, notes in the subdivision approval about these constraints on the property. And then the planning board in the review also looked at each lot and established limits of clearing. So each of these lots, and let me see if I can go to this other figure to show you a typical. My apologies here. Got too many windows open. Well, let me go to the slideshow. So what's being proposed is, as you mentioned, is brush removal along the approximate center line of each of the lots. Mr. Overton wants to be able to show the individuals these lots. And so we prepared a series of figures that marked up the limits of those clearing. No tree removals being proposed, no trees remover probably greater than 4 inches are going to be removed. No stumps removal, no physical land disturbance, because we recognize that any land disturbance activity requires the Board of Architectural Review approval. And the reason we're here in front of you today is that any land clearing activities are restricted and must take place between November 1st and March 30th. And so that's where there's some, urgency. And the reason that is it avoids and minimizes impact to not only the rattlesnake, to the potential presence of Indiana bat and the northern long-eared bat. And so that's a reason for that. So what we did and what was presented to you is these are just snapshots of each individual lot and what's being proposed, of the area that we're proposing to remove brush. And so for each lot, there is a site plan in the overall subdivision approval set. This is lot 1, and as typical, we're drawing a red line to say, here's the area that we'd like to remove brush. And we draw just schematically a circle around the home site to show, hey, there, we would like to clear brush in that particular area. This map, this image also shows on the site plan, this line is the limit of clearing as was contemplated in the environmental impact statement. And so all of the clearing is well within those limits that were previously contemplated in the environmental review and as reviewed by the planning board. And so we have each of these figures for each of the lots. I'll just quickly scroll through them We can come back to any one of them that you'd like to see in particular. So what we try to do is just represent, what we think that activity is going to take place. This is lot 3. Some of these driveways are purposely serpentine, and so that you won't be able to look up the driveway, see a home site. That was at the direction of the board. And so there's a lot that comes off the cul-de-sac. And you can see each of these, this area, you see this on many, there are existing sewer and water utilities on many of the lots, and there's proposed limits. And so you'll see a clearing activity here, and that's meant to represent that location of that easement that exists or that is being granted to the village or another benefactor. And I'm going to scroll through. Here's lot 6. Here's lot 7. 7 has a rather long driveway off the cul-de-sac. Lot 8 and lot 9. And so that's, I think that's at the core of what's being proposed. I know in talking to Mr. Ledwith, it's like, hey, let's make sure we're clear, is that we're not proposing any earthwork, and that any clearing is just meant to provide access. We're not constructing a roadway. We won't remove stumps, and all those things that should remain in place, so that we to minimize impact, but also that allows us to do this activity without preparing a stormwater pollution prevention plan. We have a stormwater pollution prevention plan prepared for the overall subdivision. That this type of activity is not subject to those rules, but we're cognizant of the potential for erosion, and so we'll perform inspection to make sure that there is no land disturbance, and that in the event that there was any land disturbance, that we would restore any disturbed areas. So that's what I think. That's what I have on my. I have the full plan set. If you wanted to see, here's what that full site plan drawing looks like, and we could scroll through any of those, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Very good. We are fortunate in that one of our bar members was formerly a member of the planning board for at least part of this review, and has some more institutional knowledge than I may have. So I was going to start with Rob, if you had any questions.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chris. All of this looks very familiar to me after all those many hours when you drew these out. And frankly, it all makes perfect sense to me. I understand the rationale. And I actually don't have any questions. I was keen to be reassured, which I am after your presentation tonight, Chris. Reassured that any brushwork would follow the contours in general of the specified driveways, even if they were not officially approved by the planning board. Clearly they do hew to the driveway as suggested, and so I'm fine with this, speaking for myself.
Okay, so just one distinction here, just so that the board is aware, and I think Rob made the point, is that macro, this site was approved, and the driveways and a potential home were shown to be capable of being situated on the property, and the proper environmental and other assessments were done. But there hasn't been a formal site approval, because there aren't homeowners yet for these sites, of each of the lots. So they're following what has been suggested as the base expectation of what the driveways will be. There's no guarantee that ultimately they may end up right in that spot, and that you should take into consideration. And I think that's the only point that I would make. And it just, in my view, may just impact whether it makes sense to maybe just cut the brush down low rather than remove anything. And would like to hear what other members of the bar think, and then the public.
This is Christopher Gow. No, this is a great plan. I'm happy to approve it so you can move forward with it. As it's pretty obvious, but it's worth stating. You know, these meetings and comments are to preserve, you know, the kind of tuxedo patina, so that whatever happens, obviously when building a house, damage is done and environmental damage is done. That's inevitable, and that's one step back. So in order to counteract that, we want, you know, 2 steps forward. So if things have to be removed, if trees have to be removed, brush has to be removed, you know, the replanting would be great in more appropriate areas. But it seems that, yes, you're doing a great job in respecting the topography, respecting the environment, respecting Mother Nature, and to work with that instead of against it. We would love, you know, 9 new homeowners coming in and buying property there, because it's a bucolic, wonderful part of the park, and not trying to clear cut it and make it some suburban nightmare. That, you know, we want it to be so appropriate. So yeah, I'm delighted you've put so much attention into this. There's one aspect though that that I'd like to bring up, that on the property, on lot 1 property in the wetland area, there is the presence of an invasive species, Japanese knotweed, which is one of the worst pernicious invasive species in the park, and it spreads. For example, you know, there's a 10-acre plot in London. It took £50 million to clear it of invasive species before they could build the Olympics there. So there it is present there. It's spreading slowly. So my recommendation would be with Wicks on the premises. They have a licensed pesticide applicator who knows what it looks like, to identify it and come up with a plan to eradicate it. Because once you have homeowners and developers starting to dig up the land, it spreads by propagation, by roots, tiny segments of root of the stem, even the leaves can spread. And it's not, it's a huge problem. In England, you cannot get a mortgage on your property if you have knotweed on your property. It hasn't got to that legal status here, but I would just, I wanted to point that out to you, and I'd be happy to meet up with you to show you where it is if Wicks don't seem to identify it. But I think adding that to your plan, you cannot eradicate it now. It's not the right season, but I would certainly have, you can identify it now and put a plan in action to nip it in the bud, as it were, because that would be a very expensive problem to deal with it the longer you leave it.
Any other comments from the bar members? Okay. John, do we have any neighbors or members of the public that would like to speak on this application?
Yes.
I know there were some questions raised.
Yes, I know that the Garafanos had some questions, and possibly John Boyle. I see that Neil Garafano was on the call.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks for letting me chat and giving me an opportunity to hear the proposal. A couple of things. One is, how many lots at a time will be cleared?
Chris, I mean, do you want to address that? We're not, to be clear, we're not clearing all the lots. We're just.
No, I
doing-
understand. I meant to clearing the brush.
I guess that depends. I mean, the idea is to do it all before April 1st. I guess it depends on the landscaper's ability to undertake this.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking about respecting the environment. I think we also need to respect the neighbors. And if you've been around Wicks work or any tree clearing activities, the sound and the disturbance can be deafening, and I'm right in the middle of it. So I'd like to know whether or not they're going to be clearing more than one lot at a time. And I'd also like to know if someone is adhering to the provisions regarding the noise ordinance and the level of noise that's allowed. And I'd also like to know if Wicks is going to be using mufflers on their clearing machines.
Chris, I-
chainsaws do have mufflers. I'd like to know if there's going to be mufflers on Wix machines.
I'm not aware of that. Chris, I don't know if you have any information.
Yeah,
on-
I think, hey, it's a landscaping activity. I don't have details on Wix equipment, so I can't answer that question. Perhaps we can get that information to you. You know, we're subject to the noise regulations, so we would adhere to those regulations.
How is the noise, excuse me, Chris, I apologize. How is the noise regulation monitored?
I think I think you're asking the village that. I think it's hours of, you know, and I don't have it in front of me, Mr. Garofano, but it is hours of operation. I think it's ideally, these activities are done during the winter when people's windows are closed, when people are not particularly out of doors. And so I think it's pretty ideal in that regard. I realize it doesn't make the noise go away, but it would limit any impact. And then I don't know how the village monitors or enforces the noise regulation. I think it's through some form of observation. Perhaps Mr. Ledwith can answer that.
Yeah, Mr. Garofano, this is John from the village office. The village requires no noise or no activity before 8 a.m. or after 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Okay,
And no work on, and just add to that, John, I see no work on the weekends or any holidays.
Correct. You know, unless it's being done by the homeowner himself. You know, commercial activity
right.
through a landscaper is Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30.
Okay. And what about finding out how many lots they'll be working on at the same time? I mean, is it possible that they'll be working on all 9 at one time? Because that would be deafening. Whether the windows are closed or not.
Yeah. I don't have I can't honestly answer that, but I
Well,
don't
can
know.
we find out from Wix, and can the board require that there be a limit as to how many lots they can work on at the same time to respect our neighbors?
Can
I
certainly,
think, go on.
I just think logistically, I mean, I'm not a landscaper myself by profession, but I don't see how they would be working on all 9 lots. I just think my knowledge of Mr. Wicks, it was, you know, I don't know, Chris, if you have any better knowledge, but it would be
No, I
basic.
think the
be
village is
sequential.
familiar with him. He's been doing work in the village for quite some time, so.
Well-
I understand all of that. I'm just asking that Wix be told how many lots he can work on at the same time.
I hear your request, and I think the board hears that. And I can't answer for the board.
Well, can somebody answer for the board?
I mean,
Yeah.
generally, you know, when Wix or any landscape crew comes, they tend to come in groups of, you know, 5 to maximum 10. So the maximum number of lots realistically you'd have being worked on at any given time would be, say, 2. That'd be the maximum. Honestly, you know, pick your poison. I mean, the more they work on, the faster it goes. I mean, so.
I understand that. However, I've been around enough landscaping noise to know that anything beyond 2, I think, could be troubling to neighbors. So if 2 is the number, then I'd appreciate it if Wix knew that.
And John, being as they have to comply with the code and noise, and the applicant understands that, perhaps you can discuss this with the applicant in terms of what level of involvement can occur at one time in order to avoid violating the code. It's a little bit out of our bailiwick, but we certainly are sensitive to Mr. Garofano's concerns.
Thank you. I have one other comment and question. So it's not just the driveway. They're also going to be clearing the footprint of the proposed home.
In
I thought it
general,
was just the driveway, wasn't it?
it is the driveway in an area, so one can see the home site. So we drew a circle, and that's what you see on the plan. The idea is that the brush in that area, so that somebody could arrive at a home site and gaze out from that.
Oh, okay. So the inside the circle is not going to be cleared.
No, it would be. I think that's the intent. That's what we're describing.
Okay, so it's not just the driveway, it's the driveway and the home site.
Correct.
Okay, because that's not in the proposal.
No, that's,
Proposal says
I
just
didn't
the
realize that
driveway.
either. Right. Driveway.
Why
and-
doesn't it say that? Why does it just say driveway?
Well, it says driveway to reach the designated home sites. So
Well, it says to reach the designated home
Yeah,
site. It
I-
doesn't say to clear the designated home site. Why is
it-
that, why is that
it just, I
left off?
just, imprecise language on my part, Mr. Garofano.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm assuming that the red circle is part of the official plan
Yeah,
as,
it was
as
showing on the plan.
proposed, and that is visually extremely clear, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garofalo.
Mhm. Do we have a second neighbor?
Yes, it's John Boyle. Good evening. Thank you for taking my my call or my whatever here. So right now, and that's a question. Right now on Camp Comfort Road, there are ribbons marking certain areas on the brush. Is that currently what's contemplated as the point at which you're going to start clearing the brush?
No, we've not marked any areas. I think as a part of the subdivision approval, the lots were required to be staked and monumented. And so I think I can't verify that's what you're looking at, but that's.
No, it's literally red ribbons on the brush. You know, which has been up here already quite a bit. So I'm very familiar with what they're doing.
I think John perhaps can answer that because John was on the site too. At the instruction of the village some months ago, there were some, dangerous trees that were removed at the village's instruction.
Okay, so the only reason I'm asking the question is I walk that street every day with my dogs, and I see at certain intervals ribbons, roughly the width of what you're suggesting in your plan.
Okay.
On brush, and I was just wondering if that was where this, where you contemplated beginning, where at the street. The only reason I'm bringing it up is that I'm directly across from Lot 8, and looking at your plan, the entryway to begin clearing brush is further north than where this is marked by the roadway. So if you're telling me it hasn't been marked yet, fine. That's good, because otherwise it's like right across from my front door, which, I'd prefer not. So so if you're telling me it hasn't been done
Yeah,
yet.
it hasn't been marked yet, so I don't know what
Okay.
those flags represent. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, good. And, good luck with maintaining the open area, because come spring, it gets overgrown quite quickly. So
Right.
you may find yourself coming back to redo it if you're showing these in the early summer. So anyway, thank you. Appreciate your response.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments?
Can you still hear me, Neil Garofano?
Yeah,
I can.
Could you just tell me about when you plan on starting this?
We haven't been able to give Mr. Wicks a commitment. And so as soon as we understand whether we have approval or not, we'll contact him, and we could communicate that back to the village, and then you could connect with the village and find out what those dates are. So if that's
So we're
helpful.
talking about 2022?
Yeah, ideally it's this, yeah, correct. 2022 before April 1st.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and I just wanted to just clarify one more time, what it is that is proposed to be cut. And I understand it's the driveway and up to the house and the circle around. Is it include what's inside the circle too, the whole potential plot of the home, or just a walkway around the perimeter?
I don't know, Dan, do you know, I mean, we're relying, the intent is to allow a homeowner or, a potential
See this. I think you'd
purchaser,
like to, yes, I mean, again, it's just a home site. I think they would like to, again, we're not cutting trees, we're not disturbing the land. It's just clearing brush, which I think is,
Mhm.
has been suggested, a lot of this is maybe just, invasive brush.
Mhm.
I know a Japanese barberry is also present on the site, which is challenging to get through. So
Mhm.
If, Neil Garofano again, if they do come across a tree that's beyond the 5-inch diameter on the home site, for example, what'll they do?
no trees are to be removed.
But we'll have to work around it.
Yeah, we're not clearing the home site, so removing
Okay,
brush.
you'll
or
work
so
around
when-
the
yeah,
tree.
yeah,
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Is it less obtrusive or is it the same amount of work? And I'm sorry if I'm not an expert on this, to just cut back the brush as to remove it, to give you that walkway?
Well, again, that's what we're doing. We're cutting it back. We're not removing any roots of anything. The idea is, again, just to kind of just cut it back, I think, like you're saying.
Thanks for
Chris,
the
I don't know if you have any-
clarification. Mhm.
Chris, is
Mhm.
that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily understand the nuance there. I think landscaper is going to go in there with brush, removal device, whether it's a chainsaw or otherwise, and clear that swath and, and avoid any and all trees. So,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, this is
Please
Susan
go
Boyle.
ahead. Yes.
John Ledwith, it sounds like the bulk of this is brush clearing, so I'm sort of scratching my head why the owners of the property have to get the bar's permission to clear brush if they're not taking down trees. It just seems odd to me that it's a property owner's right to do whatever landscaping on their property they want to do.
Well, this section of the code, has come under some scrutiny when other people have removed the understory of their lots. And given the extent, 9 lots, 9 different paths, I thought it was important that the BAR review this application as they would review any other landscape application.
Okay,
And
I would
And I would
just.
just add, Mrs. Boyle, I appreciate the comment, and I would just say we've, in processing this application over the years, we recognize the special character of the village and that it has many restrictions and requirements that I think Chris and I don't see in other municipalities. And I think that protects you and yours to the benefit of the community.
I certainly appreciate it, but I also just see the other side of it. But anyhow, I don't want to delay things, but it was a question I had.
No, it's a very good question, and we took that into advisement too. But since there haven't been final site plan approvals, John felt comfortable, since it was a large project, to just run it by us. Okay, all that being said, do I have a motion?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, motion. What, you want a second or a motion?
Well, I can make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the Overton application with regard to the removal of brush in the driveway and showing the home site in accordance with and subject to the requirements of the planning board approval previously approved, and making all efforts to mitigate any additional and making efforts to schedule the process in as reasonable a manner as possible in order to comply with the code. Attorney Honan, you want to help me on this? I'm not sure I'm doing the very.
Yes, I think what we can do is vote to approve the application except have it amended to include the area that is circled around the proposed building sites. Because I think it lays out, the application lays out pretty clearly that they're clearing a central line of a driveway 5 feet on either side of brush. And I think the only thing we really need to make it more specific is to talk about that circle area on each lot, and that area is going to be cleared as well of brush.
Okay, so that's the resolution being proposed. Is there a second?
This is for a single clearing, right?
This is for
One time.
nine lots, I believe.
Right, but no, a single time to go in and clear it. They can't keep coming back and clearing it unless they come back before us again, correct?
The building permit's typically good for 18 months.
So this will be an ongoing thing with them coming back and clearing it as it grows, especially during the spring and summer?
Well, there are limits, as they mentioned early on, in the time that they can do this work, and they can only do it up until April 1st. If they wish to come back next year, I'm sure they'll approach me.
I think that's something maybe some of the homeowners nearby should be aware of, that this isn't a one-time thing.
John, this is Susan Boyle again. I have another quick question. The location of the driveways, has that been approved?
The location of the driveways has not been finally approved. It was approved only in the context of getting an approval of the overall development and showing it
Okay.
on the plot plan.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Okay, I think we can continue with the resolution. So the resolution as Stephen Honan provided, I'm making that. Who's seconding it? Who's seconding it?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, it passes unanimously, and we would just request that that the applicants work with John Ledwith in order to work to mitigate the noise and disturbance
Certainly.
and we appreciate you coming before us.
Thank you
Okay.
very much, Madam Chair,
Thank
members
you.
of the board. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Thank you.
Again. Yep, yep.
Good evening.
Okay. The Nicholsons. Welcome back. Are
Hi,
you there? Oh,
Hello.
there you are.
I think we're all here.
Good.
Jeffrey
hi.
and the Nicholsons. Dan Sherman, landscape architect for Alexander and Carol Ann Nicholson, 25 Mountain View Road. This is our second time back to show a proposed pool and pool house. There weren't too many comments at the last meeting, but I can share my screen and show what 3 things I altered on my plan, and then we'll introduce Jeff to go over the building. So if I can.
That sounds great. And I would just say that they have been to the BZA and received approval for the project. So now we're just here to see what has changed and see if we can grant final approval.
All right, let's move you over here. So I have 4 exhibits, and you have seen them before. Let me minimize this one. This is the overall property plan, and the only thing changed on this one is that we've added 3 black tupelo trees in the open clearing here to the north of the creek in this front yard part of the property, because our proposal is to clear the edge of the woods up in this part to show the installation of the pool, just clearing enough to put the pool and let some sunlight in the pool. And those trees are little sapling maples and a variety of woodland things, of which there's loads of them surrounding all around. But we added 3 black tupelos down here. That's all this plan shows. The other one zooms up more on the pool. So I will see if I can zoom up on it. I'll show you the material for the paving because that's shown on the next page. It's kind of a porcelain material. The only change on this plan is that before we had a bridge, and we're just going to put, there's really almost no water in the swale. It's not even seasonal. It's like a dry kind of a thing, line of rocks that water could flow through if it came out of the woods, but it rarely happens. So it didn't really warrant a bridge. So we just have a 12-inch metal pipe that goes underneath, and then we're making a 6-foot wide stone sidewalk across it. And there'll be sloping landscape on either side. So it's just like a walkway over a landscape with a pipe underneath it. And That's really all that changed on this plan, but let me show you the views of it, because the views show what that could look like. Yeeks, don't tell me. Did I lose you? Okay, here's the views. This upper left view looks the same. The fencing is shown in the middle. It's a very transparent sheer black mesh with metal posts, kind of as transparent as we could make it. It has somewhat of a modern look. The paving samples you can see here, this I took on my conference room table. The middle part is Pennsylvania bluestone, which is what the pool coping will be. And the samples left and right is the porcelain material, which is almost a direct match to the bluestone. It'd be cemented onto or mortared onto a concrete setting bed. And that same material will go right into the porch of the pool house and into the pool house. And we're using this because it's very cleanable and doesn't get as hot as bluestone on bare feet, but it really looks essentially the same as the porcelain. And I think I have a view. Well, this one, the second one down on the right, shows our sidewalk going across the landscape there. You really can't even see. Let me zoom up on it a little bit. Let me get everybody over here. How do I move? I need to move you guys. There. Everybody following this?
Mm-hmm.
So you can see this just as a sidewalk across kind of a landscaped area, and then you go up. And we're going up these steps and with this little wall in front because we're trying to meet this grade so that in the back we aren't excavating much to disturb the tree roots behind. And there's a lovely rock outcropping, looks something like a whale sleeping there. And we're hoping to expose that some more. And there's a lot of boulders around which we'll just reposition. And then we'll leave the view into the woods, which is lovely. There's boulders all around and moss and ferns. It's quite a pretty woodland. But we're just carving out this pool area in the front of it. And besides the change of the bridge and the porcelain material, that's really it. I can show you, well, there it is. This last one shows site pictures, which is the same as before. That's the dry swale. This is looking up from the driveway, and you see the rocky edge of the swale and the pool's going in the edge of the woods here. This is what the woods looks like. And it looks the same for the back, but we're just clearing the edge of it there. So that's it. Jeff, if you want to, I guess I can.
Sure.
Unshare.
Thank you.
I'm going to unshare so that Jeff can jump in.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so architecturally, nothing has changed. The plan here, we have a covered porch. As Dan said, the paving just kind of flows right through. And then inside we have a little dressing room and a little bathroom and a little vestibule. This is just a roof plan, simple hipped roof. These are the elevations. Here's the porch, a window. This is a little outdoor shower. The siding, I'll review the materials a little bit later with some photographs, but the siding is just cedar shingles to match the existing buildings on the site. These are some of the other views. This is a view looking at the end of the porch with the door to the building and a little outdoor kitchen. And then the other end there. And then the back of the building. Some sections. These are collar ties in the porch from which we'll hang some pair of ceiling fans, which will have lights. The lights, though, will be mounted above the eaves, so they won't shine up at all. These are just some pictures of the site. So this is the main house, and then two existing garages. And so we're going to basically just use the same materials and the same detailing for the new building. The shingles will match the old ones, both in the exposure together with this little double detail here, this little half-inch exposure there. The foundation wall will match this stone as well. And the outdoor shower will we'll use the same stone also. Another view of the siding. The posts will match the posts. Whoops, sorry. Will we'll match the posts exactly, as well as the eave details, these rafter tails, and so on. The same little kick on the roof. We're going to do that as well as the same gutters, and then the same light fixture on the outside. I'll show you an elevation where this is. It's right here. And then this is the outdoor shower where the stone is. So that's pretty much it. I'll stop sharing and we can answer any questions you might have.
Yeah, as the planning board pointed out, I mean, you're getting a large variance, but it's a very large lot, and the existing screening provided by the woods that surrounds the pool and the pool house really makes it very private and doesn't affect any neighbors. So aside from it being a beautiful structure, I don't see that any issues with the neighbors. I don't know if there's any on, but.
There's been no negative comments from the neighbors. Actually, there was one positive comment early on from a neighbor further down the property.
Does anyone else on the bar have any comments?
Christopher Gow here. I love the fact you're adding some of the black tupelo trees. Thank you for that. The overall project still looks fantastic. There's just one aspect to it that the only one aspect that I'm a little bit uncomfortable about, and I wanted to see what your thoughts were. It's the fencing. Obviously, that's legally necessary, and you've done sort of minimize it as much as possible. But I was wondering, did you think about bushes or landscaping it to hide that fence?
Well, in this case, around the back and the two sides, we want to be able to see deep into the woods with the boulders and the ferns, and I think similarly from the front. So it can only be seen from their own driveway loop. And we kind of liked how open and breezy it was, so I think we prefer to keep it open.
And
Anyone else?
One other point about the lighting. Could you just remind us what the lighting will be in the pool area?
Sure. I'll share my screen again if that's all right. Okay. So I'll just go down to the lighting plan. So there'll be two ceiling fans underneath the porch. Again, they'll be above the eaves, so they'll just be shining down. And then there'll be this one sconce right here. Right here, but next to the window. I'll show it in elevation. So the sconce is right there, and then the ceiling fans are up in the and then the specification for them. So this is the ceiling fan that they selected. You won't be seeing it again. It'll be up in this area here. So for so you won't see it. And then the sconce is this guy, which is the same fixture that they have in numerous places on the property.
I noticed that it did have the potential for 120 wattage, which is a little strong for what we approve, and we're hoping that you wouldn't do that. Usually we would have it covered. It seemed like the top may kind of provide a little bit of cover on it. I'm not sure. I had less of a concern because there's really no neighbors at all. But wondered what your thought is. Is that shielded by the top of the fixture?
The sconce here?
Yeah.
It's slightly, it could be more shielded, frankly. But I agree that that it really ought to have a lower wattage. And I also think that I don't think they would really want a bit, you know, it seems like a really, really bright light there would not be really very nice. You know, it's not like a security light or anything like that. It's, you know, just to provide general ambient light.
The concern is if ever the Nicholsons aren't the owners of the home.
Sure.
And don't have the wonderful taste that the Nicholsons have, that they might put the 100, I think you said 150 watt bulb in there.
Yeah,
So that's why we like to either have them be somewhat either down facing or coated or something. I don't know if you have another thought on that. I mean, again, it's less of a concern here, but it is of a concern because we try to raise that issue with everyone evenly.
Sure.
And around the pool, is there any lighting around the pool, or is it just on the architecture?
This is it. There's no other lighting around the pool.
Okay, great.
So I don't know if we're just comfortable with asking that you keep the wattage in this, because it has some coverage and there are no neighbors to see it, but that it be kept at a lower level.
Yeah, I'm sure the Nicholsons would agree to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed it's dimmable, so yeah.
Right.
That would be great, because there's people are trying to light their houses up like Christmas trees at the moment in the park. So we really want to have this conversation with everybody to so that, you know, we're all on the same page. But I think we all are with this application. It looks great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and do we have any members of the public or anyone else that want to speak on this application?
I don't recognize anybody from the public or from the neighborhood.
Okay. Good, then. We should make a motion to approve it. And I was just looking for the address. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the Nicholson Pool and Pool House as shown on, and then we need the drawing numbers, the latest drawing numbers and their dates.
Yeah, there should be a last revised date on those. Perhaps Mr. Sherman or Mr. Small could give us those dates, and be easier than us looking for them ourselves.
Sure. Should I just read them off right now?
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. So architecturally, it's sheets 1. I guess there's a title sheet T, but there's sheets 1 through 8, I believe. Yes, 1 through 8. The date on the drawings is 1/24/22. And then there's some existing photographs 1 and 2, and then material photos A through G. And these are dated 10/26/21.
Do those plans that you mentioned, do they incorporate the landscape architect's plans as well?
No, the landscape, forgive me, Dan, for speaking for you. There's 3 landscape drawings, L1 through L3. And the dates are, well, let's see.
And then there's photos.
And then there's photos. And the last revised date is 1/21/22.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Good luck with your lovely pool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'd now like to just make a motion to approve the minutes of what was the date? Desiree, from the minutes of the.
Yes, January 6th of 2022.
January 6th, 2022 meeting. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And finally, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, being there being no further business. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Everyone
Thank you
have a
all.
good evening and thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Have a nice
Night.
weekend, everyone.
You too.
You too. Bye-bye.